Okay, this is the Government and Politics Introduction. It would be your first day of this course. And what you need in addition is the PowerPoint slides, which are uploaded. And that means you have the slides that are up on the screen, and then you're supposed to take notes based on what you hear and what you process as we go. And also, you will be doing a survey. That handout is there as well. Okay. And for day one, we take these notes actually in our file folder. But if you weren't here, you can just take them on another piece of paper, and we'll tape or staple that in. And one other important piece of information for day two of this class and the rest of the semester, that is you need a single subject spiral, so 60 to 80 pages. I don't mind college or wide rule, whatever works better for you. Okay, so in this course, every time we do some sort of lecture discussion, there's a title to it, and this is Government and Politics. And you'll take notes that day in your spiral. But what guides our learning for the day is an essential question. So the first thing you write under the title of your notes is the question. That's the question that we keep coming back to. We might be getting a lot of details, a lot of facts or things that you might feel like you're memorizing. I never want us to get too far away from the big picture, why are we learning this? So we're starting with a very broad question, one in which there are many answers. It's a hotly debated question. It's one that has been debated since really the beginning of civilization. It was debated with the American Revolution and is debated today between Republicans and Democrats in Congress and at our state legislatures. So that question is, what is the role of government? This is U.S. government and politics, so let's start with some basic vocabulary. When we say government, it's a really broad term. Government encompasses the federal government, the state government, your local authority, and then the multiple branches. Are we talking about Congress? Are we talking about the president? Are we talking about the judicial branch? When we say government, we're kind of talking about it all without any specification. So here's your definition. Government is the institution through which a society makes and enforces its public policies. So government is that thing that makes laws happen for us. Politics has to do with who gets to control the government, or answering the questions about what exactly the government does. So you could think of politics as the art or science of winning and holding power. Ideology is your set of beliefs, and that refers in politics to your set of beliefs about what the government should and shouldn't do. By the end of the day, you'll also know your ideology. Okay, so you have what the government is. The politics has to do with answering questions about what government is doing, and in particular, who gets to have the power in government. And then ideology would be a set of beliefs, values about what the government ought to do. And you will, as I was saying through the survey, determine your political ideology. So the purpose of government, notice in the title I put textbook here. What I mean by this is it's in your textbook, but it's in pretty much all textbooks, and not just American government textbooks. So this is what governments do across the globe. Okay? And then on the right, to illustrate the difference between talking about government and politics, I have the politics of that. So first, governments, they maintain order. They provide us rules that are going to keep us safe and keep us working productively together. So that sounds, obvious. Governments make laws, and that is for the good of society. But we don't all agree on what would be the good of society. So then it comes down to the politics. Well, how much order do we need? How do we achieve that order? So, an example of what you should start putting on the right, I'm going to give you some examples of the politics here. Thinking about here in Austin, there has been the Austin bag ban. So grocery stores no longer provide you the free plastic bags. And that has been, that's a local ordinance. So our city council made that possible. And the city council did this because it would be good for the environment. But this is also a law that tells grocers how to do their business. So is that the level of order that we need? Another example of this question would be on the roads. Also, thanks to the City Council, local ordinance now has it so that you may not be on the in your car while talking on the phone. You need to be hands-free. Most of us would agree that these things are generally good, but that there is a debate about what about your freedom in your vehicle, your freedom to use your phone in your car. And then what if this is a slippery slope? What's next? I can't change my radio. I can't talk to the passenger next to me. So this is, a very important question that comes up over and over and over again. We can agree that laws are something the government can make, and we agree that those laws are supposed to protect society, but we can argue about how much protection, how much order is needed. Another thing all governments do is they provide essential services for the people. So we agree that in this society that we need public education. But not all societies across history have done that. So what services would be provided, like healthcare or food or housing or access to clean water? So we know that the government is supposed to provide services. The debate is over what services the government ought to provide and what you need to get on your own. And then finally, they protect you. They protect you from foreign invasion. That would be what the military does. And they protect you from your neighbors. That would be what what law enforcement does. And here a very hot question, which is, well, how does the government protect you from these internal and external threats? And then how are those threats even defined? So, we can, down the road, talk about law enforcement in this country and its job of protecting citizens, but also we've seen so many injustices, racial injustices from law enforcement. So there's concern about how to identify threats and how local law enforcement does protect us. And then also talking about foreign invasion, we do rely on our military to protect our borders, but then the question comes down to, well, what about events going on elsewhere in the world? How do we deal with ISIS or the war in Syria or Russian aggression in Ukraine? What is really a threat to us and how do we respond to it? Okay, so hopefully now you have the idea that the stuff on the left is really basic, and we're going to go through how our government works to do these things. That will be more nuts and bolts in this course. On the right is the more controversial, interesting, debatable stuff that we're going to be covering, and this is U.S. government and politics. Okay, so that's what the textbook says. I thought it might be nice to look at what one of our founding historical documents says. This would be the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. I'll read it with you. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. So, here you see in very broad and general terms the things that this new government after winning independence from Britain set out to do. The Constitution is the document which sets the rules for how government works, and you'll have a pocket constitution in class. And this is the very first paragraph of it. It's explaining that there are important functions of a government. And so you could underline here, working to form a more perfect union, justice, tranquility, meaning probably peace, like domestic, meaning within the country. So peace at home, provide for the common defense, that would be defending our borders, the military, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Here that's kind of interesting. There is an important function of government to protect your liberty. We'll come back to this a whole lot, though. And now the question is, what do you think government should do? So I'm going to give you an explanation of how to do the survey, and then you should pause this and we'll come back to it. You'll notice that there are 18 statements. They're really loaded statements. You should notice that they're not middle of the road. They are biased, but that's because you're supposed to agree or disagree with them. And so every time you read a statement, you're going to put a 0 if you strongly disagree, 25 if you just sort of disagree, 75 if you agree, and 100 if you strongly agree. If you're really not sure or you just don't understand the statement, put a 50. But I'd like you to do that as little as possible. Okay? So if you don't understand a statement, which these are, we haven't really learned much about government and politics. These are hard to answer. But do your best and we can get a good idea of where you fall. So read each statement, put down the number, and stick to those numbers. Don't put like 32 or 65. That will drive you crazy later. So pause this and do that. Okay. So now that you have all of your numbers, what you're going to do is you're going to take all the numbers you put for the odd answers, which would be the unshaded ones. Okay, so the unshaded ones, and here's actually the directions. Add all the odd numbers together. So the numbers that you put for numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, those are the unshaded ones. Add them all up, divide it by 9, round it up, you don't need a decimal, and that's your x coordinate. Okay? Then you're going to do the exact same thing with the shaded ones, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so forth. Those ones, add all those up, divide it by 9, we don't need a decimal, just round up, and this will be your y coordinate. So what you're going to end up with is two numbers, an x and a y. You could pause it while you're doing that. Then once you have your x and your y, you're going to plot it on the chart on the back. Okay? So do your best. The origin is down here where it says 0, next to libertarian. The x-axis is the horizontal one, the y-axis is the vertical one. So go over x and up y and plot your point. Okay, so now that you have that done, I'm going to go over the 4 kinds of ideology. And I'm going to do the 4 kinds of ideology in a short video that will be part 2 of this.